It happened more than 80 years ago, but it still makes us worry. The mystery of house number 927 and the disappearance of almost a dozen people, including children, remains unsolved to this day. We would like to tell you about it and warn you.
December 24th, 1938, Wyoming Rollins, a beautiful Christmas evening. Snow-decorated houses of residents for the holiday. Through the windows you can see a part of their lives as they sit at the table. House number 927. Roger Hawkins helps his wife Helen to sit little Jade on a child's chair at the table. She claps her hands joyfully, catching her father's eye. The evening passes calmly, almost perfectly. After dinner, Roger and Helen exchange gifts. He gives her a sparkling bracelet and she, a rare book that he dreamed of. A special surprise is prepared for Jade, a musical toy for the bed. The girl laughs happily when she hears its first melody before her parents put her to bed. December 28th, 1938. Wyoming Rollins. On the third day of Roger Hawkins' absence, the police received a call. The voice on the other end was even but clearly irritated. Jerome Miller, Roger's boss, reported that his subordinate had missed 3 days of work without warning, was not answering his phone, and had not been heard from. "That's not like him at all," Miller added. The police promised to look into the matter, but they did not think the call was urgent. A few hours later, the police phone rang again. This time it was a worried girl. Her voice was shaking, her words were slurred, and the duty officer had difficulty making out the main points. She was looking for her friend, Helen Hawkins. The girl said that they had agreed to meet at Helen's house that day, but she had not answered for 2 days. When she finally got to her friend's house, she was in for a shock. "It's not her house," she sobbed. "I've been there hundreds of times, but now it looks abandoned, like it hasn't been lived in for decades. The windows are dusty, the doors are boarded up. There's moss growing on the porch." The police began to connect the two calls. The information was strange, but it seemed impossible to postpone checking. When the patrol car pulled up to the address, the officers expected to see an abandoned, dilapidated house, as the girl had described. However, they were met with a completely different picture. The Hawkins family home looked like the perfect embodiment of a Christmas card. The snow on the roof sparkled in the light of the street lamp. The garlands on the facade twinkled with soft lights, and in the yard stood a snowman with a bright red scarf and a carrot nose. A decorated Christmas tree was visible through the clean windows, and it seemed as if someone inside was about to come out on the threshold, inviting guests into the warmth. However, upon closer inspection, the officers noticed oddities. There were no lights on outside, except for the garlands. The windows of the house were dark, and inside there was an eerie silence. When they knocked on the door, there was no response. "Are you sure this is the same house?" muttered one of the officers, looking around. His partner nodded, checking the address. After a few minutes of waiting, they decided to act according to protocol. The door, to their surprise, was unlocked. The door opened quietly, letting the officers into the house. On the threshold, they were met by cool, almost fresh air, as if the owners had just aired out the room. Everything around looked perfect. Christmas garlands hung along the stairs. The table in the living room was covered with a festive tablecloth, and on it were plates with half-eaten food. The officers exchanged glances. At first glance, nothing indicated alarming circumstances. However, upon closer inspection, strange things began to appear. "What is this turkey?" muttered one of the policemen, pointing to a large plate in the center of the table. The dish was untouched, but clearly spoiled. A barely noticeable, unpleasant smell emanated from it. 3 days, his partner replied, leaning toward the fireplace. "The ashes are cold. No one has stoked the fire here since Christmas." They walked into the children's room. The toys were neatly arranged on the shelves, the bed was made, and the box of the musical toy that the Hawkinses had apparently given to their daughter still sat on the nightstand. It looked as if the family had only been out for a moment. "No sign of a struggle, no chaos," the officer noted. "Everything is perfect. Too perfect." As they searched each room, it became obvious. The house was empty. There were no clues, no hints as to where the family might have disappeared to. The investigation lasted for 5 years. During this time, the investigation put forward many assumptions and checked them. There were no loans or debts. Roger Hawkins was not poor and was not a debtor. According to the neighbors, the Hawkins family was decent and hospitable. Helen helped an elderly woman from the house across the street around the house, and Roger and his neighbor built a treehouse for his sons. The family was spoken of as good people, so the theory that they crossed someone was rejected. The investigation also assumed that the Hawkins stole Jade and she was not their biological daughter and they had to hide. After interviewing doctors from the hospital, this theory was rejected. Helen gave birth herself. The investigation went through theories for 5 years, after which the case, although not closed, the police no longer dealt with it. In 30 years. In 1968, Alfred Jones will try to buy this house. Together with the realtor Frederick Cage, they will arrive at the house, leave the car, enter the house, and no one will hear from them again. According to the interrogation reports of neighbors, Linda Coward, an old woman from the neighboring house, claims that she sat on the porch all day. She saw 2 men enter the house, but did not come out until the evening. Linda claims that no sounds of a struggle or anything else came out of the house. Not even the light was turned on. The investigation began again. The police searched the house again, but no trace of Frederick and Alfred's presence in the house was found. The only thing that proved that they were near the house was Mr. Cage's car and his fingerprints on the outside door handle. The investigation lasted a year, but like the previous one, it did not bring results. For 40 years, the public forgot about this house and simply did not visit it. Until March 2008, Stephen Coward, no less than Linda Coward, called the police. He claimed that something was happening in the house. Lights were turning on and it seemed like someone was walking around. The house was fenced in and entry was prohibited. The police immediately went to the scene, but they found nothing, and Stephen was considered crazy. After all, how could he see the light if the house had long been disconnected from the electricity? Stephen continued to file similar statements for 6 months. Unfortunately, he was found insane. 2023 Christmas Eve. 5 pairs of parents at different times report that they received a message from their child. All the messages are very similar. And in each message, the teenager says that he regrets going to this house number 927. The police do not take their words seriously and convince the parents that the children are playing a joke on them. Several days pass before the police begin an investigation into the disappearance of 5 teenagers. This time, they are luckier with evidence. Fingerprints of children and traces of dust were found in the house on the 1st and 2nd floors. Traces of them settling down for the night. Wrappers from sweets and sandwiches from a local store, and bottles of cola. December 12, 2024. The disappearance of the teenagers is still under investigation. After all, there are no traces leading to the doors and windows, as well as traces of the 6th person being in the house. Where they disappeared to, what happened to them still remains a mystery.
We hope you enjoyed our video. Don't forget to subscribe and like it. Bye, and see you soon in the next video.